YouTube, what are you doing here? Oh, thanks for stopping by for this glorious tabletop that my wife made. Look at that. I'm so proud of her. Conversation about all of my present cutting tools. Let me just double check the camera orientation because this is take 5. Adjustments. Feeling fine. Cool. So there we are, guys. Let me tell you about these right here. Everything you see here, I own. This is not representative of everything that I have owned, because if you look back in the video catalog, you'll see videos of knives that aren't pictured here. And you'll also in the future find videos of knives and things that aren't pictured here because I will just keep getting stuff. For instance, I have a kukri on order, should be here in another week or so from Kailash Blades. Super excited. Okay, let's talk about what we got going on here. I'm just going to give you kind of the Cliff's Notes version of all of this, and break down what I like about them, kind of what I don't, and what their story is. Part of why you don't see things that are videos before, because I'm a broke-ass teacher, and so in order to finance a lot of the things that I do, I have to sell some other stuff. And over the years, I've just sort of started to make value judgments on what matters to me in cutting tools. So starting over here, as if it were a book, top to bottom, CRKT, psych, fake out, Woods Chogan. This tomahawk is a glorious cutting tool. It's one of those ones where I've never really put a lot of the energy into the tomahawk until I had a Christmas gift, and I thought, a gift card. And I was like, well, I'll check it out. It's one of those things I've been curious about for a long time. So I went ahead and I got it. And I was thoroughly impressed by this tool's ability to be versatile and compact. You may have seen me use it in one of my previous winter videos there. Still a full review to come. But the thing I value about it is it's compact. It's able to do large work and small work. And just for that kind of reference into what it's capable of, in one of those trips I took out there, these 3 cutting tools right here, Chogan, Eldris, and Baco, only things I used. How fantastic is that? For shelter building, fire making, and food prep, this was it. Now, could it have been easier had I taken any one of these other things? Absolutely. But the fact that between those 3 tools, you're able to do that much is pretty exciting. Then I got the Baco Laplander. Not too much to say. This is the Mora companion of saws. Probably highest value of any saw you could take out into the wild. Light, affordable, durable, does the trick. Win. Solid win. We'll be replacing it hopefully over the summer with a Silky saw. Just because I think I'm ready for that slightly upper level deal. But there it is. Next up, the Matt Graham Condor primitive bush tool with this sweet sheath. I saw some cool mods on the sheaths that I think I maybe want to try, with like a strap and a D-ring and a loop for dangle carry. But I've also, especially over my years of kukri usage, become a big fan of the kind of tucked in on the left crossbody draw, which is where this sits most strongly. Great versatile tool, not perfect at any one thing and also not bad at any one thing. It's just one of those reliable companions out there. And I think if you're after a one tool option, this is fantastic. 420 high carbon stainless steel, and they also sell it in a 1075 version with micarta scales. There you go. Up next, this one may seem strange in this wilderness outdoor cutting tool context, but it's the Hori Hori. And this is one of those tools that I think, especially when considering, when moving beyond the survival mentality of a wilderness experience, I think the Hori Hori has more value than it's given credit for. Especially, this is always on my side when I'm in the garden working with my plants, because this is a plant processing champion. We have a cutting edge here. I use it for limbing certain things. I got this serrated saw edge. It's great for cutting through roots and digging holes. And If you're searching for tubers and food, there it is. It's got a measuring device. When moving into that sustainability approach of your wilderness experience, I think Hori Hori has a lot of value. This one's by Green Tisserie. Got a review on that of this on the channel. Big fan. Up next here is the 100 years anniversary of the Ka-Bar USMC fighting utility knife. This is obviously unused. I have not put a lot of, I've not yet taken it out. It's not that I won't or don't want to, I just haven't. Part of the reason I haven't is because, with that clip point and the general edge design with the saber grind, it's one of those where it's designed clearly for a more utility cutting and fighting tool versus a bushcraft plant processing tool. So I'm going out for a weekend or afternoon or day of bushcraft plant processing fun. This is not usually my first thought. It was a gift from a friend, and I'll probably never get rid of it, and am looking forward to using it. And part of why I keep it around too is that idea of the survival bug out bag cutting tool kind of a thing. This is one of those ones where in a shit hitting the fan kind of scenario, you're like, this is the kind of knife you want to have around. And so, very grateful that I own it and need to get more practice with it. No reason I haven't. More Eldris. Damn. There's not likely going to be a review on this because all I'm going to do is uphold what everyone has said, which is this knife is more knife than I ever would have thought because it's so little. But it does more than you think it does. It's more comfortable than you think it would be. And this is an invaluable tool. It's a neck knife. I carry it out every time and will never not on purpose. Love it. More Cansbull, Eldris Cansbull. So, this is a knife that I have bought and sold and finally came to the conclusion, if I'm just going to keep getting it again, I need to stop selling it because it's a fantastic tool. It's a great, great tool. This is one where I never thought I should ever get rid of it because it's such a comfortable handle. It's such a useful edge profile and length. It's fantastic. It's perfect. It's a perfect hip knife or belt knife, and I love it to death. If you've watched my review of the Garberg, this handle is the perfect handle for my hands that I've encountered so far. Easily the best one. Love it to death, and it's actually all messed up because I never got it properly cleaned after I helped. We use this, my friend and I use this to butcher a half cow that he bought. So there's that. Eldris Cansbull. Boom. We'll start down here and work our way up. Screw reading. This is the most recent addition to my cutting tool catalog here. This is the Benchmade Siebert Design Adamas. Adamas being the Greek word for indestructible or invincible or something. If I do a review on this guy, I'll have that info down. This is one I'm generally on the fence about, and the reason for that is because as a pocket knife, it's huge. I mean, here it is next to the Harvester. Here it is next to my one-hand Trekker. It's heavy. It takes up a ton of real estate. But again, I mean, that's the point. It's nothing against the knife and its design. It's more about I'm just not sure if it's what works for me. A lot of people are perfectly happy and comfortable and willing to EDC a knife this large. Not sure I'm a huge fan. But I also got it with the purpose and intent of knowing that it's a much easier to package and carry version of this, essentially. It's a utility fighting anything kind of a knife. It's not good at any one thing, bad at others, but it'll never break and it'll always be there, like the Ka-Bar. And actually I went hiking and stumbled across an awesome chunk of fat wood, but we were just staying light out with the kids, and I used this to pry out chunks of fat wood from a stump. And if you've ever harvested fat wood out of a stump, you realize it's not just let me go grab some real quick. And I was prying with this knife and it held up just fine, showing no sign of slowing. So It's kind of one of those, that's why I got it, and maybe I just convinced myself I never want to get rid of it by saying that. Up next, again, the Victorinox Ranger Grip 71, the Gardner, fits in, again, bushcraft, outdoor plant processing. This guy, and this guy actually are on my gardening pouch. But especially if I have the intent of doing plant medicine work, this knife is great for harvesting bark and partitioning things. I love it to death. Then when I get to the scissors and I need to just I just limbed my golden currant the other day with it, or pruned it. Pruning, harvesting St. John's wort for a tea or something, and all I need is the flowers. These things are fantastic. Heavy duty scissors on a multi-tool, and the saw, making a tincture out of arrowleaf balsam root. I need to cut up that barky root. Bam, this thing's fantastic. This is another one of those kind of like the bush tool. I bought it, I sold it, I bought it, I sold it, bought it, and I'm just gonna stop selling it, because if I'm gonna keep getting it, why would I keep getting rid of it? Same with this Leatherman Super Tool 300. I love it because it's simple. It's one of those ones where it's not flashy, it's basic, and because it's not flashy and basic, it'll always be there, it'll always work. Like the K-Bar. There's nothing special about it other than its materials and simplicity. Materials and simplicity. That's what keep this thing in my catalog. Bought it, sold it, decided to stop selling it so I can just keep it. I carry it in this sheath. If it's not in my gardening pouch, I carry it in this guy. And the great thing about this Maxpedition magazine pouch, also carry that in there. If I'm out doing wildernessing stuff or whatever, I'll carry that, or sometimes I want to EDC that if I'm doing labor around the yard. Or back in my WCC wilderness days, this was a staple, especially for fence building. Up next, the Victorinox Swiss Tool Spirit X. That X is what marks it as the version with the straight spear point edge versus the 3/4 serrated sheep's foot of the normal Spirit. If I could only have one multi-tool for the rest of my life, it would be this one. I've never gotten rid of it. Every once in a while I think, am I at a point where I want to sell that? And the answer is always a resounding no. Have the 100 carved in there sloppily. This was my gift to self after having made 100 days straight without chewing tobacco. Shout out to all the Kill the Can brothers out there keeping the fight up. Stay strong, y'all. And everyone else, I'll put a link in the description if you want to quit chewing. A link to the Kill the Can online forum. Great community. Victorinox Alox, not farmer, but harvester. And here's that difference. It's got the hawkbill blade where the can opener would normally go. This is another one. I keep it in my little Possibles pouch, my belt pouch when out bushcrafting, along with cordage, fire steel, fat wood, a couple Band-Aids, whatever little ditties you put in a belt pouch, whatever works for you. This one goes in there as that extra. Well, I guess I had this. When I took these out, I had this. Never used it, but I had it. Didn't even think about it, idiot. Anyway, fantastic, durable. This is more heavy duty than your standard Swiss Army knife pocket knife, but it is a fantastic tool. You could EDC it. I've got this little belt pouch that I've got with it, carry along. Got a little honing rod there. Yeah, great tool, man, and I love it. It's one of those, I've thought about getting rid of it before, and I just don't. On over to the one-hand Trekker, my primary EDC blade. Got the saw, can opener, screws, screwdrivers, all fantastic all-around tool. Maybe bigger than and heavier than some would like, or not the most glorious steel than some prefer, like the D2 of this or whatever. But when we're talking about just your everyday carry, basic use, why not have other stuff on it? I mean, really. Why have just the knife when for more or less the same weight you can have a few extra things and be useful that much more? That's how I think about that. Great knife. Great knife. And last but not least, these are ones where they never get talked about as much, but they're the Mora carving tools. Got a couple of these hook knives for spoon, bowl, kuksa carving, and this little carver. This is one of those things where after I got the Eldris, I thought to myself, why did I need the Eldris? I had this right here. I mean, they have different blade profiles and everything else, but their size and function is more or less the same in terms of like neck knife carry and things like that. Again, this has, sharpened spines, different steel. I'm not necessarily saying, but the fact is that if really what you're out there doing is trying to have a positive wilderness experience with some plant processing and you're not trying to break the bank, this is one of those knives. Make this your neck knife, man. It's got a little sheath. You can even make it a belt knife if you're feeling ambitious. But these knives don't get talked about a lot, but when you're done doing all of the big, fancy, sexy work of bushcraft like shelter building and fire processing and batoning and cutting and notching and all that shit, there comes to a point where you're actually doing the chores of wilderness sustainability, the little things, making traps, carving tools and implements. And that's a huge element that gets overlooked by a lot of people, especially in the online community. And you forget that these are the things you need too. These are the things that take that full experience from an overnight 1 or 2 night, wilderness bushcraft backpacking trip into a set up a sustainable camp and practice major skills sort of a deal. Here's a cowl I made for the Chogan, the tomahawk. You can buy a sheath for it. I haven't. I will at some point. I just haven't. Anyway, there you go. There's my collection. That's what I got right now. Things will be updated as we go. Hope that was helpful, useful. If you have any thoughts, questions, or experiences with any of these tools, please share them in the comments below. Be part of the conversation. Join me on Instagram and Facebook. I have a page all called For This Land. And Godspeed. Remember, whatever you do for this land, you do for everybody.